Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam to all the Vaishnavas listening to me. Today we will continue from 9th question of the chapter One's Constitutional Propensities from the Abhidhya part of this book. Before that, let us offer our prayers at the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev and all our previous acharyas. Om Ajnantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya चक्षुरन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता श्रीराधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तद्काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितनाम पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Ninth question is, why only Bhagavad Dharma is eternal dharma? Answer is, due to spiritual propensity, all fortunate souls have a natural taste in the science of pure devotional service to the Lord. Their worship of the Supreme Lord is neither part of fruitive activities nor mental speculation, but it is pure devotional service. Such worship is called pure Vaishnava Dharma. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1/2/11 as follows. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yaj jananam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti भगवान इति sabdayate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagwan. The absolute truth, which includes Brahman and Paramatma, is the ultimate goal of all the truths. The absolute truth is Vishnu Tattva, and all spirit souls are his servants. The pure propensity of the spirit soul is called devotional service. Devotional service to Hari alone is known as Shuddha Vaishnava Dharma, Nitya Dharma, Jaiva Dharma, Bhagavad Dharma, Paramatma Dharma or Paradharma. All religious principles that have arise from the principle of Brahman and Paramatma are simply occasional religious principles. There is also a cause behind the cultivation of impersonal Brahman. Therefore, it is also occasional and not eternal. The followers of impersonal Brahman consider material bondage as the cause of their conditional state, and thus they take shelter of occasional religious principles in the form of searching after impersonal Brahman. Therefore, cultivation of impersonal Brahman is not eternal. Even those living entities who follow the principles of Paramatma Dharma with a desire to attain pleasure derived from Samadhi also make the subtle material enjoyment as a criteria and thus follow the path of occasional religious principles. Therefore, cultivation of Paramatma Dharma is also not eternal. Only pure Bhagavad Dharma is eternal. 10th question is, why religious principles are many? Answer is, why religious principles have become many? The answer is that in pure state the living entities have only one type of dharma. After becoming conditioned, the dharma of living entities have become twofold, namely materially designed dharma and pure dharma. Pure religious principle can never change at any circumstances. but according to time, place and person, and due to a difference in the nature of materially designed living entities, materially designated living entities, the materially designated dharma has naturally become separate. This materially designated dharma gets various shapes and names in various countries. The more the living entities become purified, the more their dharma becomes free from material designations. On the pure spiritual platform, all living entities have one eternal dharma. 11th question is why the existence of the spirit soul and super soul cannot be established through arguments and reasoning, and what is proved by direct perception. Answer is, since the truth is never lost, it only remains hidden. The eternity of the spirit soul and the existence of Brahman cannot be established through logical arguments, because arguments have no access to the subject matter that is beyond material universe. Direct self-perception is the only establisher of such truths. By direct perception or spontaneous samadhi, the saintly persons constantly realize the eternal abode of Vaikuntha and service to Krishna. 12th question is, what is the religion of the soul? Answer is, it would indeed be the height of error to conceive that all the opposite qualities of matter, space and time are in spirit. Hence, we must look to some other attributes for spirit. Love and wisdom are certainly spiritual attributes which are not opposite qualities of matter. Man must be wise and love God. This is the religion of soul. 13th question is the religion of the soul sectarian? Answer is, we do not profess to belong to any of the sects of religion under the sun, because we believe the absolute faith founded upon instinctive love of God natural in human souls. 14th question is, why is the ultimate goal of the religion of the soul beyond the realization of the mental speculators and ordinary righteous people? Answer is, bhakti, love, is thus perceived in the very first development of the man in the shape of mind, then in the shape of soul, and lastly in the shape of will. These shapes do not destroy each other but beautifully harmonize themselves into a pure construction of what we call the spiritual man or the Ekanta of Vaishnava's literature. But there is another sublime truth behind this fact which is revealed to a few that are prepared for it. We mean the spiritual conversation of the soul into a woman. It is in that sublime and lofty state in which the soul can taste the sweetness of an indissolute marriage with love of God. The fifth or the highest of Vaishnava's development is what we call Madhurya Ras, and on this alone the most beautiful portion of the Vaishnava literature so ably expatiates. This phase of human life, mysterious as it is not attainable by all. Nay, we should say by any but God's own. It is so very beyond the reach of common men that the rationalist and even the ordinary theist cannot understand it. Nay, they go so far as to sneer at it is somewhat unnatural. 15th question is, how is love of God the eternal religion of the soul and how is it beneficial to all? Answer is, the essence of the soul is wisdom and its action is to love the absolute. The absolute condition of a man is his absolute relation to the deity in pure love. Love then alone is the religion of the soul and consequently of the whole man. 16th question is, what are the ordinary principles of devotional service? Answer is, you must love God with all thy strength and with all thy will. You are wrong in concluding that you will lose your active existence, rather, you will get it the more. Work for God and work to God, proceeding from no interested views but from a wholly free will, which is above the strength of man but identifying itself with pure love. This description is of bhakti in general. 17th question is, what is pratyagati and paragati of the living entities? Answer is, when a soul sits in the chariot of the mind and chases the sense objects through the gates of the senses, this is called paragati. When this current again flows towards the soul's own abode, it is called pratyagati. With a desire to convert material attachment into spiritual attachment, all the spiritual emotions are mixed with material emotions for giving up paragati and practicing pratyagati. The pratyag dharma of being greedy to eat palatable foods is to eat mahaprasada. The pratyag dharma of the eyes is to see holy places and the beautiful form of the Lord. The pratyag dharma of the ears is to hear devotional songs and the pastimes of Hari. The pratyag dharma of the nose has been exemplified by 4 Kumaras when they smelled the tulsi and sandalwood that was offered at the feet of the Lord. The pratyag dharma of associating with the opposite sex through marriage for the prosperity of a Vaishnava family was exemplified by Manu, Janaka, Jayadeva and Pipaji. The pratyag dharma of festivals is seen in the festivals celebrating the pastimes of Lord Hari. These human characteristics filled with emotions of pratyag dharma are seen in the lives of pure swan-like personalities. 18th question is there any difference between the attachment for material objects and the attachment for the Supreme Lord? Answer is, attachment is present whether the repository is for the Lord or for something mundane. The only difference is its repository. When attachment is turned towards Vaikuntha, then no attachment for the material world remains. One only accepts what is required for maintenance of the body. When the objects that are thus accepted become transcendental, then all attachments become spiritualized. With that, we complete our 53rd chapter and move on to 54th chapter, which is called Surrendering. First question is, what is the eternal perfect religion of the living entities? Answer is, surrendering and subordination to the Supreme Lord is the eternal perfect religion of the living entities. Second question is, how can one attain pure devotional service? Answer is, aiming at the ultimate instruction of surrender given in Bhagavad Gita. If one accepts all objects of the senses as the remnants of Supreme Lord and engages in the service of the Supreme Lord, giving up karma and janana, then he can attain pure devotional service. Third question is, what is the root of pure bhajana? Answer is, no one can attain the mercy of Krishna simply by studying the scriptures or hearing their conclusions. To give up endeavor for karma and janana and become fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord is the root of pure bhajana. As a result of this, one achieves the ultimate goal of life, which is love of Krishna. Fourth question is there any meaning to the life of a person who is devoid of surrendering? Answer is, without surrender, the lives of living entities are useless. All living entities should worship Krishna with full surrender. Fifth question is, what is the ornament of a practitioner of devotional service? Answer is, the entire life of a practitioner of devotional service should be decorated with surrendering. Sixth question is, what is the method for giving up name and fame? Answer is, the Vaishnava spiritual masters have given me the name Bhakti Vinoda, but because I have no true devotion, for me this name is only a disease. To cure myself of this disease, I take shelter of the Vaishnava's feet. 7th question is, what is the fate of a person who is overwhelmed by temporary material happiness and distress? Answer is, any woman who wishes to always keep her temporary relationships with husband or son will find that she cannot. When the fruit of her karma is ripe, the son will perish. Even if the son sits on her lap, she has no power to protect him. Thinking happiness and suffering come from material relationships. The soul falls far from Lord Krishna's feet and falls into lower life. Therefore, please stop your grief. Dive into the bliss of the holy name. All these words fulfill the desire of Bhakti Vinoda. 8th question is, what is the prayer of a fully surrendered pure devotee? Answer is, I will behave equally with everyone, not try to demand respect from others. I will always try to give respect to others. In this way, I will constantly remain absorbed in the thought of Krishna through the process of Krishna Sankirtana. 9th question is, do the Vaishnavas feel any external ordinary distress? Answer is, the external distress of the Vaishnavas is not actual distress as it is foreign to them, but it is temporary and passes off blissfully in course of time. 10th question is, how many types of surrender are there? Answer is, surrender is of 6 types. First, accept things which are favorable. Second, reject things which are unfavorable. Third, to maintain the conviction that Krishna will certainly protect me. Fourth, to maintain the mentality that Krishna alone is my sustainer. Fifth, offering everything to the Lord. Sixth, humility. Each of these 6 types of surrender are further divided into 3 categories. These are bodily, mental, and verbal. 11th question is, in what kind of behaviors are the fully surrendered devotees situated? Answer is, one should accept only which is favorable for devotional service and reject only which is unfavorable for devotional service. One should have firm conviction that there is no protector for me other than Lord Krishna. One should also have full faith that Krishna will certainly maintain me. One should offer everything to Krishna and spend his life with sincere humility. 12th question is, in which subject should a fully surrendered soul have determination and detachment? Answer is, I will reject with firm determination whatever is unfavorable in the path of my worship to the Lord. While worshipping the Lord, I will give up my body when the proper time comes. 13th question is, does a surrendered devotee think about his own maintenance? Answer is, I will never think of my own maintenance. Rather, I will remain absorbed in love of God. O Lord, Bhakti Vinoda has accepted you as his sole maintainer. 14th question is, being surcharged with love of God, how does a pure devotee see the Lord's relationship with himself and this world? Answer is, O Lord Hari, you are the Father of the universe. You are the Mother of the universe. You are the beloved Lord and the Son. You are the well-wisher, the friend, the spiritual master, the husband and the desired tree. I am only your eternal servant. 15th question is, what is the hope of the living entities who are submerged in the material ocean? Answer is, O Lord, when I was submerged in the material ocean, I called you pathetically to please deliver me. At that time, you came forward to protect me. Realizing you as the pivot for my deliverance, I saw a ray of hope. 16th question is, what is the result if one goes against or in favor of Krishna's will? Answer is, whatever Krishna desires is auspicious for everyone. One should give up one's own independence and destroys all problems. Krishna gives, Krishna takes away, and Krishna maintains everyone. Krishna protects, Krishna kills by his own sweet will. Whoever desires to oppose Krishna's will never becomes successful but simply suffers. 17th question is, how should one accept Krishna as the only maintainer so that one can achieve love of Krishna? Answer is, I am an eternal spirit soul, a servant of Krishna. There is no protector or maintainer for me other than Krishna. I am the most fallen and poor. If I spend my life enjoying the fruits of my previous karma, but at the same time hearing and chanting the holy names of Krishna, then I will certainly attain the Lord's mercy. If I remain with this conviction, then I can attain love of Krishna. 18th question is, how is it desirable for a devotee to depend on the mercy of Krishna? Answer is, either today or in 100 years or in some lifetime, Krishna will certainly bestow his mercy on me. I will take shelter at his lotus feet with firm determination and never leave him. Such attitude and patience is a must for practitioner of devotional service. 19th question is, what is Atmanivedana or fully surrendering to Krishna? Answer is, to possess the mentality that I do not belong to myself but to Krishna is the symptom of fully surrendering to Krishna. 20th question is, does a fully surrendered devotee remember his past history? Answer is, O Lord, after attaining your blissful service, I have forgotten all my previous histories. I belong to you and you belong to me. So what is the use of anything else? 21st question is, how does a surrendered servant of Krishna accept the happiness and distress born out of service to Krishna? Answer is, all the distresses born in the course of your service are also the source of my pleasure. Happiness and distress born from your service are the supreme wealth and they destroy the unhappiness of nescience. 22nd question is, while living in the family of Krishna, does a surrendered soul desire material enjoyment? Answer is, I take a respite from material enjoyments and become fearless of material existence. I will constantly serve you and not desire to enjoy the fruits of my karma. I will remain attached to your lotus feet and constantly endeavor to please you. 23rd question is, what kind of humility does a practitioner who is engaged in the chanting of the holy names display before an exalted Vaishnava? Answer is, I do not find the strength to carry on alone the Sankirtana of the holy name of Hari. Please bless me by giving me just one drop of faith with which to obtain the great pleasure of the holy name of Krishna. Krishna is yours. You have power to give him to me. I am simply running behind you as a beggar, shouting Krishna and Krishna. 24th question is, how should a practitioner who desires to chant the holy name of the Lord pray to his spiritual master? Answer is, Gurudeva, give this servant just one drop of mercy. I am lower than a blade of grass. Give me all help. Give me strength. Let me be as you are, without desires or aspirations. I offer you all respects, for thus I may have the energy to offer respect to everyone properly. Then, by chanting the holy name in great ecstasy, all my offenses will cease. 25th question is, does an unalloyed devotee ever give up the lotus feet of Krishna? Answer is, it is not possible for one who has no other desire to give up your lotus feet. O Lord, Such a person spends his life taking shelter at your lotus feet, and your lotus feet are the cause of his fearlessness. 26th question is, how should one worship Krishna until death? Answer is, as long as one possesses this material body, one should remain attached to Krishna and accept him as one's wealth, friend and life. One should consider the relationship to one's brother, friend, husband and children which are related to one's own body as temporary. 27th question is, does a sincere worshipper of Hari ever consider himself a guru? Answer is, I will consider myself as your servant and give up the pride of being a guru. I will honor without duplicity remnants of dust from your lotus feet and drink water that has washed your lotus feet. 28th question is, to whom does the absolute truth manifest? Answer is, the Bhagavad teaches us that God gives us truth when we earnestly seek for it. Truth is eternal and unexhausted. The soul receives a revelation when it is anxious for it. 29th question is, does a fully surrendered devotee ever proudly consider himself the doer? Answer is, O Lord, if you search after my qualifications, you will find none, for your mercy is my life and soul. If you do not bestow mercy, then I will simply cry and no longer remain alive. 30th question is, whose shelter should a living entity who is lost in the dense forest of material existence take? Answer is, the four directions are fully covered with thick dark clouds in the form of foolishness. Upon that, the rain of material miseries are constantly being showered. Seeing such a situation, I am frightened and I have lost my way. O Lord Achyuta, due to my foolishness, I have fallen in the grip of misfortune and I am suffering in the ocean of material existence. I have no guide to show me the real path, and thus I am almost dying. Therefore, O Lord, I pray to you with my heart and soul. 31st question is, how does a pure devotee pray for Krishna's mercy? Answer is, O Lord, I am the most wretched person and you are the most merciful. Therefore, I have a right to receive your mercy. The more one is fallen, the more you display your mercy to him. Therefore, I am the suitable candidate for your mercy. 32nd question is, what kind of eagerness does an exalted devotee display in order to attain the qualification for chanting the Lord's name? Answer is, if I do not expect any respect for myself but always give respect to others, then you will award me the qualification to chant your holy names. O Lord, I grab your lotus feet without duplicity and fall on the ground with great humility. 32nd question is, when does an exalted Vaishnava bestow mercy upon the living entities? Answer is, when will I be so fortunate that the Vaishnavas will consider me as their own servant? I will sing the transcendental qualities of Sri Krishna in Vrindavana and be intoxicated in drinking the beverage of the nectar from the lotus feet of the spiritual master. The fruitive workers, the mental speculators, and persons who are envious of and adverse to Krishna will reject this beggar with hatred. The smartas who are attached to ritualistic ceremonies will conclude that this person is devoid of proper behaviors and therefore extremely restless. Persons who are proud of their material knowledge as well as the impersonalist will give up my association, considering me a madman. The most pious Vaishnava will mercifully embrace me, seeing me devoid of bad association. With that, we complete 54th chapter and move on to 55th chapter, which is called Chanting the Holy Names of the Lord. First question is, which qualifications should a chanter of the holy names of Hari possess? Answer is, one should have the following symptoms in order to constantly chant the holy names of Hari: humility, freedom from envy, compassion, freedom from false pride, and respect for everyone. Second question is, how does Hari Katha become effective in the material world? Answer is, one who has developed faith should first take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and hear about the spiritual truth from him. Thereafter, he should engage in chanting and glorifying whatever he has heard from his spiritual master, and thus the process of destroying Maya in the form of self-realization takes place. In this way, Hari Kirtana becomes effective in the material world. Third question is, what is the purpose of Sankirtana? Answer is, the endeavor of Sankirtana is to call out the holy names of the Lord with heartiest feelings. Fourth question is, by following which process are one's obstacles removed and does one's cultivation of the holy names becomes constant? Answer is, at first one should chant the holy names for a short time in a solitary place with undivided attention. Gradually, by increasing the prescribed numbers of the holy names, one will attain perpetuity in the cultivation of chanting, and all one's obstacles will certainly diminish. Fifth question is, which process should a practitioner who is full of anarthas follow in the course of chanting the holy names? Answer is, every day a person should give up the disturbance caused by material enjoyment and chant with love for a while in solitary place. Gradually, he should try to increase the duration of this process. Finally, a wonderful mood will be awakened in him and will remain all the time. Sixth question is, what is the meaning of constant chanting of the holy names? Answer is, except during the time of sleep, to always chant the holy names of the Lord during taking care of the bodily activities, and at all other times is called constant chanting of the holy names. Seventh question is, how should one chant the holy names of Hari in the association of Tulsi? Answer is, Tulsi is very dear to Hari. Therefore, by chanting in her association, one feels the spiritual strength of the holy names. While chanting the holy names, one should consider that there is no difference between Lord Krishna and his holy names. Eighth question is it beneficial to chant more rounds without any feeling and eagerness? Answer is, one should try hard to constantly chant the holy names of Krishna clearly and lovingly rather than trying to increase the number of rounds. Ninth question is, which religion in this world will be the goal of all religion? Answer is, in their matured stage, all religions of this world will end up in one religion in the form of Nam Sankirtana. We feel this is to be a certain fact. 10th question is, at what time during the period of Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur was Nam Sankirtana first preached in Calcutta? How can Hari Kirtan be performed in a pure way? Answer is, once upon a time, the leaders of Sri Gauranga Samaja decided to perform Sankirtana. Being induced by such thought and with the help of the citizens of Calcutta, they performed the first Nam Sankirtan on the appearance day of Sri Mahaprabhu at Biden Street, Calcutta. According to the opinion of many elderly persons, such a Sankirtan festival never took place in Calcutta before. Everyone, including the atheists and the devotees, joined in this congregational chanting of the Lord's holy name. Such a tumultuous Sankirtan should be performed in all the countries on the appearance day of Sri Mahaprabhu. Due to this Sankirtan festival, the citizens became attached to Kirtana. What to speak of this? People gave up all other engagements and formed Kirtan groups in every village and spent lavishly for this purpose. It was very pleasing that the citizens of Calcutta, who hailed from different states of India, joined in Nam Sankirtana. Particularly people from western part of India who have never heard Mahaprabhu's name also became intoxicated by chanting the names of Nityananda Gauranga in the course of their participation in Hari Nam Kirtana. Many shopkeepers and commission agents of Bada Bazar who belong to the western part of India participated in the Nagara Kirtan by spending huge amounts of money and labor. The residents of each village of Calcutta performed Kirtan in their respective villages with pomp. On the appearance day of Sri Mahaprabhu, we were engaged in holding a grand festival at Sri Navadvipa Mayapura, which is the birthplace of Mahaprabhu and Harinama. After a few days, we came to Calcutta and performed this Harinam Sankirtana. It appeared that the religious principles which were extinct in Calcutta are now, by the mercy of Mahaprabhu, becoming prominent. This is because Hari Kirtan, which is the essence of all religion, is being performed here. But in spite of these encouraging activities, Mahaprabhu has not distributed love of God, which is the most confidential mystery in this metropolitan city. In order to reveal himself, the Lord has given sufficient encouragement to all kinds of people. Even he gave them the strength to give up material happiness. Still, he has not opened the door of pure love and devotion. He has induced people to chant the holy names, but he has not given them the propensity to follow in the footsteps of the Mahajanas even today. We saw many people performing Kirtana with Mridanga and Kartala, giving up their leather shoes, yet we did not find any tulsi beads on their neck. If even some people do have tulsi beads, they are new ones. This creates some doubts. Many people have not decorated their bodies with 12 marks of tilaka. In order to hear Kirtan in the Mahajana's way, we went to Neemtala Ghat one day, Joda Sanko another day, and Jhama Pukura on yet another day. But we could not find any such thing. We were extremely pained to hear Kirtan performed by Nyadas, Bahuls, and unauthorized people in the tune of cinema's song. But our pain was somewhat diminished by hearing the eternal names of Hari, Krishna, and Rama uttered by them in the course of their singing. Those who possess love and devotion in their hearts love to hear Kirtan in old and ancient tune. They do not like to hear or sing useless topics. They sing and hear the pure holy names of Hari in the old tune. Due to lack of good association, the residents of this metropolitan city do not realize the characteristics of pure devotional service. Therefore, they follow their own concocted process. Anyhow, our Sri Gauranga is most merciful. Since he has mercifully allowed the residents of Calcutta to perform Kirtana, we hope that gradually he will reveal pure devotional service in their hearts. Some people say that the residents of Calcutta have started this process of Kirtan in order to avoid the dreaded diseases like plague. There is no doubt that those who are against this Kirtan are certainly enemies of the country. We have a proposal for them. They can perform Sankirtan, but they must do so on occasions. It is better that they perform Hari Kirtan on occasions such as Purnima, Ekadashi, Gaur Purnima, Janmashtami, month of Kartika, month of Baisakha, the days when the Lord is taken out on a procession, and on days when the sun enters a particular zodiac signs. May the residents of Calcutta increase our happiness by performing Kirtana with Mridanga and Kartala in a pure Vaishnava way, following the footsteps of Mahajanas. Sri Gauranga is Jagat Guru. Therefore, he will certainly award them their desired result. 11th question is, what does a chanter of the holy names beg? Answer is, accompany us and chant the names of Radha and Krishna. This is our only appeal. Sri Bhaktivinoda says, whenever I chant the holy names of all dangers go away. With that we complete 55th chapter and will continue from 56th chapter in the next session. My sincere obeisances at the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev and the divine couple Sri Sri Radha Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.